Get ready to be so cozy. I'm Lindsay with Off the Beaten Hook, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to make the Halcyon Hat and Scarf set. And this is no ordinary double crochet hat and scarf. Even though it is easy, it uses this beautiful split puff stitch, which creates a super thick, squishy, cozy fabric that is going to be perfect for your next hat and scarf. So get ready to push all of those double crochet hat and scarves to the back of your closet. Let's jump in. Now, this video tutorial is a supplement to the written pattern. It is written in multiple sizes, so you do need to go visit that link in the description box below, which will take you to the free written pattern. Make sure you have that handy as we jump in. I am using a size 5 bulky weight yarn. I'm using a wool yarn, but you can use any size 5 bulky weight, and I'm using a 6.5mm hook. For the hat and the scarf, I do start the pattern with a row of foundation single crochet stitches, and I do that because it's easier and more clean to go back and add the ribbing on the hat. I just did the scarf in the same way, and this is how you begin. I'm going to do a sample of the scarf with you. The hat is done in the exact same method. You're just going to end up doing a different amount of foundation single crochets based on the hat size that you are making. All right, so for the pattern, for the scarf, we are going to begin by making 22 foundation single crochet. And this is how you do that for your foundation single crochet. Begin by chaining 2. And then in that very first chain that you made, I'm going to use the back bump. You're going to insert your hook and pull up. You're going to yarn over and pull through 1, and then yarn over and pull through 2. And what you just did there is you created your first single crochet and your first chain at the same time. So as you continue on, you're going to be working on this side. You're going to insert your hook under both loops of that chain underneath and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through 1, yarn over and pull through both. All right, so that's your second foundation single crochet. So you're going to continue in that way and make 22. All right, so I've got 22 foundation single crochets. Now the foundation single crochet row does not count as a row as far as row 1, row 2, row 3. You're just beginning the pattern that way. All right, so we're going to go ahead and end on 22 foundation single crochets. We're going to turn. Now we're going to begin row 1, which is sort of our setup row. We're going to begin with chain 2. All right, that does count as a stitch. And even though those turning chains count as a stitch, we're still going to begin in this very first stitch right here. Sometimes when the turning chain counts, you actually skip this one and it's referred to as a false stitch, and you begin right here. For this pattern, we're going to begin right into that very first stitch with our first split puff. And here is how you do that. For your split puff, you're going to be working in this first stitch and this fourth stitch, skipping these two in between. You're basically making a big puff stitch, but you're making it over several stitches. All right, so here's how you begin. Yarn over and insert your hook into that very first stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Okay, do that again into that same stitch. Yarn over again and insert into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Okay, leaving those loops on the hook. You're going to skip the next 2, skipping this one, the second one, and the third one, and into this fourth one, you're going to do that same thing that you just did, where you're going to yarn over, insert into that fourth single crochet, yarn over and pull up. Again, yarning over, inserting into that same single crochet, yarn over and pull up. Okay, you're going to have 9 loops all on your hook. Just make sure they're all pulled up to the same height. Okay, you're going to yarn over one more time and pull through all 9 loops on your hook. And that is your first split puff. Now you're going to chain 2. 1. That first one is referred to as the eye. This first chain, which kind of closes the puff stitch, is referred to as the eye. Those are the stitches you are going to work into as you go back and forth and do your repeat row, and we'll show you more of that later. So chain 1 and then chain 2 between every stitch. Okay, for your second split puff,
what you'll see here with the puff stitches, you have one leg here and one leg here. That's how I refer to them in the pattern, with the two skipped in between. Leg one, leg two. With your second puff stitch, the first leg that you make is made in that same stitch that the second leg from the previous stitch was made. And here's how that looks. So when you go to do that same split puff, you're going to yarn over, but you're going to put your hook into that same stitch that last split puff was made, okay? And you're going to do your 2 yarn overs, all right? We're going to skip over the next 2, and the second leg will be done in this stitch right here. So again, we're yarning over, pulling up, and doing that twice. Okay, again, you've got 9 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through. Okay, then we're going to chain 2. We're doing this all the way across, okay? So there you have 2 split puffs. So here is the second leg of your first puff that you did, which is closed with this eye right here. And then the first leg of this puff is done in that same stitch. And then you skip 2 and you're doing the second leg in this one. And here is the eye that one was closed by. Okay, so we're going to do that all the way across. We're going to do it together. So here we go for our third split puff, which is going to begin in this same stitch. Yarn over, pull up twice. Okay, skip 2, and then in this one here, we're going to do that again. Yarn over and pull up twice. Yarn over, pull through all 9, chain 2. Again, to that same stitch that your last leg was finished in, skip 2. Second leg is going to go right here. Okay, so let's just finish off that row. Chain 2, again, skipping these 2, going into this one. I'm making my last split puff here, so the first leg will go in this stitch. My last leg will go in that very last stitch, which was my first foundation single crochet that I made. Okay, now on this very last split puff that you do of the row, we're only going to chain 1, and then we're going to make a double crochet in that same stitch that second leg went into. Just do a double crochet to finish off this first row. Right, so there is row 1 of your scarf or your hat, whichever one you are making. It is done in the exact same method. All right, so that is our setup row. Now, the next 2 rows I'm going to do with you are our repeat rows. So you'll be repeating rows 2 and 3, 2 and 3, over and over for the number of rows that is required for the item that you're making. All right, so we're going to go ahead. Sorry, I'll redo that there. So we ended our row with the double crochet. Turn your work, and this is going to begin row 2, chain 2, 1, 2. All right, now as we go across this row, we're going to be doing our puff. We're going to begin with a puff, which I will show you, and then we'll be doing our split puffs across, just like we just did. And we're going to be using the eye of the puff. So here's this one. It was that chain that closed our split puff as we went along. That is where you're going to be placing your split puffs from here forward, is into each of these little eyes. Okay? But for row 2, you're going to begin with placing 1 puff into this very first eye of the split puff from the previous row. And you're going to do that by simply yarn over, insert into that eye, yarn over and pull up. Do that again, yarn over, insert into that same eye, yarn over and pull up. Yarn over, pull through all of those 5 loops on the hook. Okay, we're going to start every other row with just doing a single puff stitch. Okay, here we are again, chain 2. Now we're going to go across with our split puff stitches. The first leg of the first one we're going to do is in that same one we just did that puff. The second leg will go into this eye right here. Okay, so yarn over, inserting into that same stitch that we just did the puff. Yarn over, pull up twice. Now straight into this eye of this split puff from the row we just did below. Yarning over into that eye, we're going to do our 2 yarn over, pull up. Yarn over, pull through all those loops, chain 2. Okay, so we're going to do that across into this next eye here. All those loops, chain 2. Okay, so do that across and I'll meet you at the end. All right, I'm about to make my final split puff of this row, making the first leg in this eye, the second leg in this eye. All right, chain 2. We're going to end row 2 with a puff in the same stitch as this split puff right here. So we started this row with a puff and we're going to end this row with a puff, and that's how every other row will go. Okay, again, we're going to end the row with only 1 chain, just like we did with the last row. And then we're going to place a double crochet into the turning chain, to the top of the turning chain. All right, so that is row 2. You can see this beautiful texture coming together already. So you're going to repeat that row in a moment. Okay, so that is the first row of our 2-row repeat. Okay, so that one ended with, or began with a puff and it ended with a puff. All right, so turn your work. You're going to begin row 3 with a chain 2. We're going to go straight into that eye from the puff below that you just did. And we're going to start our split puffs all the way across. So the first leg will go into that puff. The second leg will go into this split puff from the row below. And we will do that all the way across. So starting with our split puff right into the eye of that puff. And the second leg going into this split puff from the row below. Chain 2. All right, and off you go with your split puffs across this row. All right, I am about to make my final split puff of row 3. The first leg will go into this stitch here, and the last leg will go into this puff stitch from the row below. Turn over, pull through all of those. We're just going to chain 1 again, always at the end of the row. We're only chaining 1, not chaining 2 like we are as we go across. And then we're going to place our double crochet in the top of that turning chain. And that is row 3. So now you have row 2 and row 3. Those are the 2 that you are going to repeat over and over as you build your scarf or your hat. So again, as we turn, we're going to begin every row with a chain 2. And then as you do row 2, so every other row will begin with this a puff, and then you will split puff across, and then you end with a puff. You'll do your double crochet and your turn, and then as you repeat row 3, as you go up, you just do your split puffs across. So let's just start this one again together. So this is a repeat of row 2. So we're on row 4. We're going to begin with a puff into that eye of the split puff from the row before. Chain 2. Okay, now we're going to split puff all the way across. And I will meet you at the end, and we will end the row together and begin the next row together. Making my last split puff of row 4. And now I am going to end the row with a puff stitch into that same stitch I just ended with my last split puff. And then just a chain 1, and then ending with a double crochet in the top of this turning chain. Okay, and turn. All right, here we are on our repeat of row 3. So again, we just repeated row 2. Now we're going to repeat row 3, which begins and ends with just split puffs all the way across, starting it right into the eye of that puff that you just did. All right, so this is going to get you going on your scarf or your hat, whichever one that you are making. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this row, and then I'm going to come back and show you how to do the ribbing on the hat. And I'll just do it off of the first row of this as an example. So I will see you there. All right, I'm making my last split puff of this row, ending with just 1 chain and a double crochet into the top of this turning chain from the previous row. Okay, look at that. It's just so beautiful. You just can't get enough of it. It's just such a beautiful texture, and it is very reversible, which is awesome. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like I am done, and I'm going to actually fasten off right there. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to rejoin, and I'm going to show you how to do the ribbing for the hat. Okay, now when you come back to do the ribbing for the hat, don't forget to go down a hook size. I'm going down to a size 6. I did the body of the hat or the scarf in 6.5, and I'm going down to size 6 for the ribbing. All right, so go ahead and bring in your yarn and slip knot onto your hook. And go ahead and flip, and you're going to be working through the chains of the bottom of the foundation single crochet row that you did at the very, very beginning. And that is, again, why I start this project with the foundation single crochet, because it's a lot harder to do. The ribbing does not look nearly as good when you're making it through these like kind of gappy chains. Just doesn't make that first row look very clean and neat. So based on the size that you're making, you will do a different number of chains. So the width of the ribbing will be a little bit different if you're making like the toddler hat versus the adult hat. I'm going to go ahead and do a ribbing of 6 stitches with you. So you're going to re-add, when you're down here at the bottom of your hat, you're going to rejoin your yarn in that very first chain. So just on the very edge through both of the loops. Okay, and you're just going to slip knot to join that. Okay, right on the edge there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to chain again. I'm going to do a ribbing that is going to end up being 6 stitches. So I'm going to chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so we're going to turn and we're going to work through the back bumps of that chain for this first row. We're going to skip that very first back bump, and we're going to do a single crochet into this bump and all the way back down. So you'll have 6 single crochets for this first row of the ribbing. 5 and 6. Okay, so we've made our way back down to the foundation single crochet row. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find the next 2 chains on this foundation row. So we just used this one. Right, so for this one and this one, we're going to simply place slip stitches into those. Okay, so we're going to just go straight in, and we're going to slip stitch and slip stitch, chain and turn. Now as we make our way back up the ribbing for our second row, we're going to be working through the back loops only. So here are both loops. We're going to be working through just this back loop. Okay, and I want to point out that as we work our way back up the 6 stitches, we're going to be skipping that chain, and we're going to be skipping both of those slip stitches that we just made. We're just going to ignore those. Those are not counting as stitches, okay? So we're going to go straight in to the first single crochet of this ribbing through the back loop only. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then when we get to the very last one, rather than the back loop only, we're going to do it through both loops. This makes kind of the bottom edge of the ribbing a little bit more clean. So whenever we work our last stitch or edge stitch on the bottom part of the ribbing, we're always going to be working through both of those loops. Okay, so for example, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to work through the back loops all the way back up except for that very first stitch. We're going to go 1 through both loops of that stitch. And now back loop only for these 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as we work our way back to the foundation single crochet row. So here we are now. We've got a couple rows of our ribbing done. Slip stitch to the next 2 chains from this foundation row. So 1 and 2, chain 1 and turn. So again, skipping the chain and the first 2, those 2 slip stitches you did, going straight into the back loop of this first single crochet. So 5 through the back loop only, and then when you get to the very last one on the edge, you're going to do both loops of that last one. Chain 1, turn, again both loops because we're still on the edge, and then back loop only 5 single crochet. Okay, there is the beginning of your ribbing. So you're going to do that along the entire first row all the way to the end, and I will meet you there. I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'll give you the general technique of how to fold this, seam it up, and cinch it off on the top to add the pom-pom. All right, I make my way for my very last row of ribbing here. Take a look at what that looks like. Okay, so we got all these ends going on for a little swatch. There it is. That's just so pretty. Doesn't really matter right and wrong side, whichever way you prefer. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to have for your hat is as you end your hem down here on the bottom corner, you're going to leave a really long tail. You're going to use this tail to both seam your hat into a tube and weave it in and out along the top of your hat to cinch it closed where your pom-pom is going to go. Okay, so all of these ends by now have been taken care of. We're going to pretend you don't see them. You've woven in off of your final row on top. This one's gone, and you just have this one long tail that you're going to leave a bunch and snip it off. Okay, so what you're going to do at this point is you're going to choose what side you want to be the right side. It really doesn't matter. The stitch is reversible. It's probably a little bit neater along one of the sides versus like this side where you added your hem. So I'm going to choose this to be my right side. So when you're ready to seam your hat into a tube, you're going to fold your hat in half with the right side on the inside. So right sides together on the inside, okay? Then you're going to take with the whip stitch and you're going to take your long tail that you left. You're going to weave it onto a tapestry needle, and through every single stitch of your the first and last row of your ribbing, you're going to whip stitch your way all the way up. Okay, you're going to be doing that all the way up. You're going to continue and whip stitch this entire side. You're going to seam that closed. Okay, and then when you get to the very top, what you're going to do with the tip, because you'll have a little tube at that point, and you're going to weave. You don't have to weave through every single stitch. I do it through every like 3 or 4 even. And you're going to weave the yarn in and back out, in and back out, all the way around to the end. And then you're just going to pull. You could even pull a little bit as you go along, but you're going to pull on that and it's going to cinch it closed on the top. Okay, now what I do at that point is tie it off really good. And then you're going to turn your hat inside out and you're going to add your pom-pom on the top. And then I just use that yarn tail that I just tied off with. And that's how I attach my pom-pom. You can attach your pom-pom however you normally do with a new piece of yarn, or some people use like the cute little buttons or whatever to attach their pom-pom. I just use that same yarn tail. All right. And there you will have your finished hat. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. This really is a beautiful stitch. It can be used in so many ways. I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.